Boston. And to generations of kids, he was known as the Flying Santa. The story of a New England storyteller next.
Hey, get going. For up-to-the-minute route-specific traffic conditions, punch *1 free on your cell phone. Smart Traveler, that's commuter coverage you can count on.
Some of the things that make college special are fraternity parties and homecoming weekends and spring break at the beach. Some of the things that make college special to Sharon Martin are textbooks with all the pages, heat in the classroom, and enough money to come back next year. Support the American Indian College Fund, educating the mind and spirit.
Reports today say some in Brazil don't want Michael Jackson shooting part of his new music video there. They fear bad publicity if he shows some of that country's terrible poverty. He will, however, probably be allowed in, and if you'd like a sneak preview of the video, we've got it.
He really wants to be a protest song.
Michael may have hit a roadblock in shooting part of his video in Brazil, but only Inside Edition has what Michael's got on tape so far. Starting Monday, we'll bring you this world exclusive behind the scenes of Michael's upcoming video, They Don't Care About Us. It's only on Inside Edition that you'll see and hear what Michael's been up to since the split with Lisa Marie. It's an up-close, personal visit with the King of Pop. And you'll see it all when you join us next time. That's Inside Edition for today. I'm Deborah Norville. See you later.
Steve Forbes tells us he has the experience to cut government waste. But in his one government job, he allowed $276,000 tax dollars to be wasted, redecorating the residence of a friend who was his top aide. Forbes' top bureaucrats received government pay averaging $240,000 each. The press called it a gravy train. 2 federal audits sharply criticized this lavish waste of our tax dollars as improper. Steve Forbes, untested, just not ready for the job.
626. Total luxury. Priced like a base Altima. Best basic warranty in its class. 626. Lease a 626 from $209, $999 down. 626.
Had enough? Tired of spinning your wheels? Well, dig in for more with the people you can trust.
More snow is moving in.
So News Center 5 is on the move. Dick Albert, David Brown, Mark Rosenthal, and the News Center 5 team get you the latest on the streets, in the skies, on the seas. Up-to-the-minute details to keep you a step ahead of the storm. News Center 5, weather coverage you can count on. More New Englanders get their news from Channel 5 than from any other source.
Call him Mr. New England.
He would say, let's go have an adventure, and we'd go have an adventure.
Adventure he did, chasing wild horses in the middle of the Atlantic, tracking down Blackbeard's skull, uncovering buried treasure.
He started digging, and he found a small treasure chest.
And then telling the rest of us all about it.
This is Edward Rowe Snow speaking to you.
Edward Rowe Snow. Challenges didn't scare him.
He dove 65 feet. He dove right into the water.
Adjectives never failed him.
Unbelievable, astounding.
And when Christmas came around, so did he.
Every time I stick my head out of the window, goes the beard.
He was probably the most important storyteller of New England stories.
Story of a storyteller, next on Chronicle.
He's been called Mr. New England. Author, lecturer, storyteller. Edward Rowe Snow's legacy is a history of New England preserved.
There are so many facets of his life that as you find out more about him, you say, what a guy.
Edward Rowe Snow was born in 1902 and grew up on Cottage Hill in Winthrop. He was surrounded by the sea.
All of my ancestors, except my father, were sea captains.
It wasn't long until he began to explore his surroundings by canoe.
Talking about the canoe, I had visited almost every island in Boston Harbor, and I had become so interested in the graveyards there, in the secret tunnels at Fort Warren, and locations like Nix's Mate, where lifeless remains of pirates were strung up in chains.
It was to become his life's work. His 1932 thesis at Harvard College was on the history of the Boston Harbor Islands. That same year, he married Anna Merle Haig, and they explored the harbor together.
He and I went to every island in Boston Harbor by canoe. He had a great sense of balance. He actually was not afraid of anything that I know of. I climbed to the very top of the lightship. It didn't bother me in the slightest. The firing of the guns at Fort Warren in World War II, Ed and I took pictures, and my eyelashes were scorched. I took it. It singed my eyebrows.
Edward Rowe Snow taught history and coached sports at Winthrop High School. John Domenico was one of his students.
He was an effective teacher. I always thought that he had other ideas, that we were going to hear more about this man.
After 13 years of teaching, he decided to spend his full time writing and lecturing. In 1947, he searched the coastline for stories, armed with a movie camera and a notepad. He found plenty. He was there when the coal ship Okie L. Alexander was torn in two off the coast of Maine. He wrote how the crew saved their own lives by miraculously steering this broken vessel onto the ledges at Cape Elizabeth. He flew to Oak Island off Nova Scotia to explore the mysterious Money Pit. For over 200 years, people had been trying to solve the mystery of who built this elaborate pit and tunnel system that's believed to hold pirate treasure from the 1700s. He interviewed Frederick Blair, who spent his life trying to discover what was in the pit and who buried it. Blair died without ever finding out. Edward Rowe Snow made the dangerous journey far out in the Atlantic to Sable Island in a small amphibian sea bee. Here were wild horses, thought to have survived for generations from a shipwreck in 1760. Snow called this island the graveyard of the North Atlantic and wrote of ghost stories told by the Canadian lifesavers who lived on this lonely strip of sand. He claimed to be the first American to land on the island by plane. Others had crashed. He published these stories and more in the book Mysteries and Adventures Along the Atlantic Coast. The book and the lecture films were an immediate success. The Snow's only child, Dorothy, was born in 1951. Edward and Anna Merle took her everywhere on their explorations.
It was incredible. It really was incredible. He was obviously a wonderful father, but he always wanted to go do adventures. And he would say, let's go have an adventure, and we'd go have an adventure. He was rummaging around a building on Middle Brewster, I believe, Middle Brewster Island in Boston Harbor. And he kicked at a pile of old rags, and it was solid. And he said, you know, he thought to himself, this must be a book or something. And he took it back with him, back home, and he found out that it was published in 1637, I think it was. It was written in early Italian, but it was bound in human skin. And he took the book back and, you know, held the book up to the light. We used to be able to do this with a book. And you could see the pinpricks over certain letters. And he took the letters and he arranged them, and he found that it said, gold is due east trees, Strong Island, Chatham Outer Bar. And he was so excited, he couldn't believe it. He got his brother had a metal detector, and they went down there, and several times they tried. And finally, the metal detector went way up off the chart. He started digging, and he found a small treasure chest. In fact, I think this is the picture right here. It was worth maybe a little over $1,000 at that time. But as he said, I had found treasure.
In addition to a growing number of successful books, Snow was writing local stories for the Brockton Enterprise, the Patriot Ledger, and the Boston Herald. He also wrote 25 articles for Yankee magazine.
He was kind of New England's P.T. Barnum, and I don't mean that in any critical sense, but he was able to promote his stories in a kind of flamboyant way. It didn't mean they weren't true, they were, but you know, some of his favorite words were unbelievable, astounding, the most incredible rescue feat in the history of New England, and he would cover himself. He would say, reportedly, or it is said. You know, he was quite a guy.
You're watching Chronicle with Peter Mahegan, Mary Richardson, Liz Bruner, and Mike Barnacle.
Coming up later, On Board with the Flying Santa. Coming up next,
My wife doesn't know yet, but I paid for it.
Blackbeard's Skull, Shipwreck Watch, and the Lighthouse Dive.
Closed caption funding provided by Bull Worldwide Information Systems.
Slipping in the polls, Bob Dole is using negative ads to attack Steve Forbes' popular flat tax, even claiming it could cause deficits. But who is Bob Dole citing as his authoritative source? Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton? That's right. Bob Dole is quoting Bill Clinton's bureaucrats as experts on the deficit to attack Steve Forbes' flat tax. Doesn't it figure? Bob Dole, a Washington politician.
Had enough? Tired of spinning your wheels? Well, dig in for more with the people you can trust.
More snow is moving in.
So News Center 5 is on the move. Dick Albert, David Brown, Mark Rosenthal, and the News Center 5 team get you the latest on the streets, in the skies, on the seas. Up-to-the-minute details to keep you a step ahead of the storm. News Center 5, weather coverage you can count on.
Why buy an ordinary sofa when you can buy a Jennifer sofa bed and love seat for just $599.99? That's both pieces for under $600 in so many styles and fabrics. Jennifer Convertibles, America's largest sofa bed specialist.
There still are affordable new homes within a short commuting distance of Boston, and this week on Real Estate Review, we'll feature one of them. On our program this Sunday, the beautiful community of Shawshene Commons, where 134.9 buys you 1,300 square feet of living space. Hi, I'm Lorraine Barnacote. Interest rates are low, so now's the time to be looking for a home. Join us Sunday on Real Estate Review when we showcase a number of new home communities for sale, right here on Channel 5.
For an eye-opening look at news from around Boston,
Greater New England, across America,
and around the world,
watch News Center 5's Eye Opener and Good Morning America.
There's good reason why more New Englanders get their news from Channel 5.
And why more Americans get their news from ABC.
It's the local news you want to know about. And the news the country's talking about.
It's about the weather here. And the weather headed here. It's an eye-opener.
You can count on that.
News Center 5's Eye Opener and Good Morning America.
Coverage you can count on.
From people you can trust.
Feel the passion of leather. Jennifer Leather, the luxury of leather for less.
Coastal storms, nor'easters, hurricanes, floods. The power of the North Atlantic in all its moods. These things fascinated Edward Rowe Snow. He documented disaster after disaster in his books, and he told these stories on radio.
This is Edward Rowe Snow speaking to you from the flying bridge of the famous wreck Etrusco. This wreck has been gathering news and fame down on the rocky ledges at Cedar Point, Scituate, ever since the St. Patrick's Eve blizzard of March 16, 1956.
He also searched for historical artifacts. On one dive, he thought he had recovered remains of the White Bird, the ill-fated biplane that disappeared crossing the Atlantic in 1927.
The possibility was as important to Edward as the fact that it might have been.
Over the years, I have collected many things, pirate skulls, such as that of Blackbeard and William Kidd, who was really not a pirate, buried treasure, ships, their models, such as the steamer Portland, and ghosts.
It's what Edward called a fist dagger. You see, you grab and pull this together, and it opens, and there are three, and he used to say, and if you did this and twisted, he says, you'd never feel the same again.
Today, Snow's Blackbeard skull can be seen at the Custom House Maritime Museum in Newburyport.
My wife doesn't know yet, but I paid for it.
I don't know if that means a lot of money or not.
Well, it's over $100.
Well, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
The skull is on loan from the Peabody Essex Museum in Salem, where Edward Rowe Snow's collection of artifacts have been donated.
We have a shelf, which was, no doubt, found washed up off Provincetown, I believe, after the Portland disaster. There was a lot of value in them when Snow showed them to people and talked about Blackbeard and talked about Captain Kidd. A lot of people's imaginations were inspired. They read a lot more and they learned a lot of things because they had these actual tangible objects here to look at.
The collection includes a tragic reminder of the wreck of the ship City of Columbus off Martha's Vineyard more than a century ago.
This mother was found, but the baby was not, and the baby's shoes were frozen to her breast. Edward had them, and he used to show them at the lectures.
On Sunday afternoons, Edward Rowe Snow would lead the Boston Harbor Ramblers on a weekly adventure.
And getting back to Bird Island, there's one delightfully gruesome story about the head of Captain Phillips, which was pickled.
He was a natural catalyst for people to become involved in the Harbor Islands. The more he began to highlight the history and the folklore and the mystery of the different Harbor Islands and gave them an individual identity and made people appreciate them for the historical jewels that they really were. What he did is he created, intentionally or unintentionally, an entire next generation of Boston Harbor aficionados.
Jeremy D'Entremont has documented Snow's life on video.
I spent 6 years researching him. I produced 6 programs about his life, different aspects of his life. I thought there was no better subject than Edward Rowe Snow. He was probably the most important storyteller of New England stories. He perpetuated the great stories of New England, kept them alive more than anybody else in our time. He basically laid the groundwork for what's now the Boston Harbor Island State Park. It probably wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the work he did in the late 50s and early 60s, saving Fort Warren from becoming a nuclear waste dump or some other, horrible fate.
Today, the Friends of the Boston Harbor Islands carry on Snow's legacy, educating people about the islands.
We'd be nothing without him. I think because by the time other people came along, it would have been too late. We would have lost George's Island. We would have lost the others. I mean, the Army was getting rid of these things. They had no use for them anymore.
Snow stayed physically fit his entire life. At the age of 62, he climbed Minus Ledge Light off Cohasset.
Edward got up to the top of the ladder one day, and the Coast Guard was nearby. And he said, "What would you do if somebody did this?" And he dove. He dove 65 feet. He dove right into the water. And down at the bottom, there were rocks. So it was really very exciting.
In the spring of 1982, after a lifetime of writing over 90 books on New England history and legends, Edward Rowe Snow passed away at the age of 79.
I think what Mr. Snow was trying to do, and he succeeded in my estimation, was he was trying to take local history that previous to him was very dead and dull, black and white, and he was trying to, in a sense, colorize it, to make it popular, make it interesting, and that, I don't know how you can find fault with that.
At the end of each lecture, he would say, "Farewell, each pretty little isle. Farewell, each pretty shore. May you be blessed with heaven's smile, till time shall be no more."
Coming up Monday on Chronicle, mouth surfing, in search of Boston's hot and spicy food. Coming up next, inside Santa's plane.
You know, I still remember as a boy, after my dad died, sitting around our kitchen table, watching my mother try to figure out how to make ends meet. The debate is not about how much money is going to be spent on our children. The debate's about who's going to do the spending. Bill Clinton wants the government to do the spending. I want the family to do the spending. I know the government, and I know the family, and I know the difference.
Had enough? Tired of spinning your wheels? Well, dig in for more with the people you can trust.
More snow is moving in.
So News Center 5 is on the move. Dick Albert, David Brown, Mark Rosenthal, and the News Center 5 team get you the latest on the streets, in the skies, on the seas. Up-to-the-minute details to keep you a step ahead of the storm. News Center 5, weather coverage you can count on.
I love the fishes because they're so delicious. Gone go fishing. I could eat them every day. And my mom says that's okay.
That's because moms know Pepperidge Farm goldfish crackers are baked, not fried like most chips. And they're cheesy, not sugary like sweet snacks.
I love the fishes because they're so delicious. Gone go fishing. Gone go fishing.
Goldfish, it's one snack that's okay to get hooked on.
I'm Casey Kasem with your Ford dealer's #1 hit. America's #1 selling car, Taurus, is back with a new look for '96 and a new toll-free number. Call 1-800-601-5959 for information about Taurus's new design, safety-first features, and more. That's 1-800-601-5959.
Ford Credit announces 4.8% financing on Ford Taurus. 4.8 could save you over $2,500 in finance charges.
For America's #1 hits, I'm Casey Kasem. To learn more about Taurus, call or visit your New England Ford dealer today.
Had enough? Tired of spinning your wheels? Well, dig in for more with the people you can trust.
More snow is moving in.
So News Center 5 is on the move. Dick Albert, David Brown, Mark Rosenthal, and the News Center 5 team get you the latest on the streets, in the skies, on the seas. Up-to-the-minute details to keep you a step ahead of the storm. News Center 5, weather coverage you can count on.
'Twas the day before Christmas when the New England coast awaited Ed Snow, who was taking his post as the Santa he'd played for 25 years, each and every December as Yuletide came near.
Edward Rowe Snow attracted national attention for over 40 years as the Flying Santa Claus. He'd fly over lighthouses along the coast, dropping gifts of appreciation to Coast Guardsmen, women, and families living at lonely lighthouses. His wife, Anna Merle, and daughter, Dorothy, would accompany him.
We had to be careful because these things that we dropped would break when they hit the rocks. So we'd wrap them, each individual one, in newspaper. Edward dropped a package at the lighthouse for this little girl, and he had a doll in it, and the doll broke, and she cried and cried. So he said the next time he would go by helicopter so that he could land, and he did, and he handed her the package.
I had a unique vantage point of the Flying Santa. I got to, there was usually a 5-seat plane when I was going, and then I was behind them, with packages packed all around me. I did get a nice burst of air when he'd open the window, but boy, was it ever rough. It was really something. You'd fly around the light the first time to let him know you were coming, and the second time to drop a package, or possibly two, and then you'd go by at least 4 times, one more time, just to make sure that they got the packages that they wanted.
Yes, in the old days we had cigars, cigarette candy, chewing gum, pen and pencil sets, a doll, if there are kids in the family, and a copy of my latest book, which is now my 96th book.
In 1980, at the age of 78, Edward Rowe Snow made his last trip as the Flying Santa.
It has cost us over $100 every time I stick my head out of the window. Goes the beard.
Within a year and a half, Edward Rowe Snow had passed away. But the Flying Santa lives on, continued as a tradition by the Hull Life-Saving Museum.
I've had people come up to tell me what it meant to them then and what it means to them now, and how it makes them happy that other people can still participate in such a wonderful thing.
Last Christmas, Chief David Waldrop of the Coast Guard felt like Santa Claus.
It was like knowing how Edward Rowe Snow must have felt landing at that lighthouse many, many years before me. Just to see the expressions of people stuck on an island. The people really appreciate it because they don't get a lot of visitors out there, especially this time of year with the weather and everything.
The Hull Life-Saving Museum preserves the legacy of Edward Rowe Snow in a room dedicated to him.
We wanted to honor Mr. Snow, and this room looks out at his harbor. The little closets, which were the surfmen's lockers, have stories that Mr. Snow told.
Now the Yankee Network presents Edward Rowe Snow, famous author, lecturer, and explorer in its series Never Told Before.
Thank you, Tom Powers. At the present moment, diver John Light.
When we dedicated this room, we invited all of his friends. And afterwards, when we went downstairs for refreshments, I couldn't find Dolly Snow Bicknell, so I went looking for her. And she was up here with the door closed to the little closet, listening to her dad.
Every winter, the museum sponsors the Snow Row, a boat race around the harbor islands in his memory. Bay State Cruises has named a boat for him. The Friends of the Boston Harbor Islands are planning a memorial.
We really don't have any memorial to him out there. There should be something. And it's funny, it's almost like he's a living memorial. Because you go out there, every time I go out there, we end up talking about Edward Rowe Snow. Every trip.
You know, as long as there's a New England history, there's going to be an Edward Rowe Snow. He's not going to disappear.
David Copperfield at the Wang Center. A portion of the proceeds benefit the UMass Medical Center Pediatrics AIDS program.
Tonight, even your best friend won't tell you it's bad for your career and your love life.
Bad breath. Do you have it? Now a breakthrough new cure. It's way beyond toothpaste and mouthwash. Watch this 2020.
Plus, this is really scary. You accidentally cut someone off, and suddenly you're fighting for your life. Road rage. It's everywhere. How can you protect yourself? 2020.
Followed by News Center 5 at 11.
Exclusive behind the scenes of Michael Jackson's new music video, only on Inside Edition.
Monday at 7.
New Hampshire primaries are always exciting. What's not exciting is a plan that'll raise our taxes. And the Steve Forbes income tax plan increases the deficit and raises our taxes. The typical New Hampshire household will pay $2,000 more in taxes, and we lose our property tax deduction and our mortgage interest deduction. That's bad for New Hampshire taxpayers and bad for our economy. Bob Dole has been fighting Bill Clinton for a balanced budget that cuts taxes and cuts spending. That's the strong conservative leadership we need.
Under pressure, out of control, if you can't seem to cope, we'll show you ways to beat stress before it beats you. Stress Busters on News Center 5 tonight at 11.
Good evening,
morning, everybody. I'm Dawn Hayes. Welcome to Lottery Live. Well, tonight could be your lucky night if you have a winning Mass Millions ticket, because later this evening we're going to have that drawing. The jackpot is now estimated at $10 million, so you don't want to miss out on that. If you don't have a ticket yet, you have till 10:30 to pick one up. And also, don't forget that tomorrow night's Megabucks jackpot is now estimated at $3 million, so there's lots of money to be won. Make sure you have a ticket. Now, these wheels are rolling to a stop. Let's see how you did on tonight's Daily Numbers game. Our first number for this drawing is 2. Next is 7, followed by 4, and finally 6. Once again, the winning daily numbers for Friday, February 2nd, are 2, 7, 4, and 6. Thanks for joining me, and don't forget, later this evening, tune in to 2020 at 10 o'clock, followed by the news. And I'll see you later for the Big Mass Millions drawing. Join me then. Bye-bye.
If you look at a man in the eye and he tells you a story and he believes it, well, you have to give him some credit for it. You don't have to believe it, but if he is sincere, that's the whole theme. And Charlie Smith, who told me about the man who was brought back to life after being frozen for over 80 years, that, in my opinion, is the most incredible tale in the volume.
And that is right in this book.
Right.
Mr. Snow, we're out of time. I'd like to thank you so much for being a part of our show.
Every new year brings a certain amount of change, and Bonus Bonanza is no different. We're changing our time, moving back to 7 p.m. on Saturdays.
That's right, Don, but one thing that won't change is the fun we have giving away thousands of dollars to Massachusetts lottery players on our show.
And don't forget, Bonus Bonanza is the only game show where you can also win thousands just by watching.
Now, will you be the next big winner? Find us back at our regular time, Saturday nights at 7, right here on Channel 5. Watch it.
Frantically planning a Florida vacation? Relax. The Gulf Coast of Florida already has a perfect plan. First, sun yourself on the beautiful beaches of St. Petersburg, Clearwater. Second,